moment. Give me 20 seconds more. All right. All right. So that is going on now. So I can come back here. All right. Thank you very much. So let me go back to share my slide. Okay, done. So I'll just quickly get back to it now, and we'll look at the outcome of what we've done. Look at the outcome of what we've done. Thank you very much for engaging with the link. So I believe you can see my screen now. So for the outcome, what I want us to do now is, please, for the numbers that you have here, the link is actually what you're expected to do is you rate each statement on a scale of 1 to 5. Strongly agree is 1, which you must have seen. 2 is disagree. 3 is neutral. 4 is agree. 5 is strongly agree, which you must have seen. Then you run through the statements, and please, whatever you have scored yourself, add everything together. Add everything together. Add everything together. And let's see the total that you have. We are back to school now, doing small arithmetic work. Add everything together. When you are done with that, okay, so we'll get these results. When you add up this, if you check my right column here, is simply 40 to 45 is about high cultural awareness and competence. If your total is within that range, between 40 to 50, it means you are culturally aware and you have cultural competence. Now, this will be linked to the next slide by the time we get there. And I'll be talking about the key areas to focus on, which is towards the left side of your screen. But if your total is between 30 to 39, then it means you fall within the category that we call moderate cultural awareness and competence. It's not bad because the total actually that you can actually score is 50. Is 50. If each question maximum is 5 and we have 10, that means you have a total score of 50 to achieve. So if you are within 30 to 39, that means we are saying you are within 30 to 39 over 50, which is also moderate. It's not bad, which means you have moderate cultural awareness and competence. But between 20 to 29, there are some cultural awareness, but needs improvement. You agree with me that when you are looking at 20 is already less than half of 50, but moving towards 29, that's within that range, and that's what we call. But if it is between 10 and 19, then there's limited cultural awareness and competence. And if you look at this, I want you to also reflect in your workspace, among colleagues, with your partner or your spouse, in relation to your children, parent-children relationship. And this might account to why certain things are happening certain ways, and why you tend to feel that sense of tension between yourself and the other person, either within the family context, within a business context, or within a work context. Now, this is the breakdown here towards the left. Take note of this. Whatever you've scored, please take note of those numbers, and this situate this thing and narrow it down to an area where you need to focus on, because it's not just a generic assessment, but it focuses on a particular area. Now, if for the statement 4 and 5, that border on communication. It borders on communication. Sorry. It borders on communication. Low scores may indicate a need for training in cross-cultural communication. And we'll get to that point where I'll be talking about the framework. Now, for question 2, that focuses on bias, whether you have bias awareness or whether somebody, when you say some people stereotype people, when you come and you become judgmental, when you come and you are so fixated or rigid with your own cultural bias, and if you now see something totally different from what you are used to, then it becomes an issue. So if it is actually low there, then low scores suggest a need for self-reflection and bias reduction strategies. We're talking about navigating cultural differences. Now, the fact that the culture is different does not make it wrong. Yes, the fact that they are different doesn't make either of them wrong. Now, you might not agree with some part, but the fact that you are not in agreement does not reflect or suggest that that is actually wrong. It's simply because you are not used to that kind of culture. And culture, simply put, is just the way of life of people or an individual per time. And there's a time variable there. Within a particular period of time, people behave this certain way. In another 10 years from now, in another 100 years from now, the behavior might change and their way of life will be totally different. So it's about bias. Then, if for statement 3 and 8, this is about cultural knowledge. Low scores highlight a need for increased cultural education and exposure. Now, for interpersonal skills, the statement 1, 6, 7, 9, and 10 are actually focused on that. So low scores in these particular statements here with these numbers reveal areas where interpersonal skills in cross-cultural environment could be improved. You will agree with me that communication is key practically in everything that we do, but we'll get more into that. So I don't want to start jumping ahead of myself. So this simply just break down the assessment that you have done. So please, I want us to put it in the comment section. What cultural challenges have you faced recently or ever faced before now? I would really appreciate it if you can just drop it in that comment section there. It will really be good so that we can learn from one another. I'm in Nigeria and I came from Nigeria and I have my own cultural biases long before now until I got to that point or place of awareness and I started educating myself. And that's why I can function effectively in a different culture. So for you, this is not saying that is where you are still, you are. This is simply saying, okay, let's look at it and see what kind of challenge have you faced before. Let me see. Thank you. I'm not recording this. I just got a message. I'm not recording it, but I've streamed it to YouTube. So YouTube will definitely record it. But at the same time, let me go and press the record button. Boys, stream live to YouTube now. Thank you for that. Thank you. I hope I have the permission of everyone to record this. Glad to say language barrier. Thank you. Glad to say language barrier. Any other comments there? I'm mindful.
Dele. I also said understanding perspectives.
Understanding perspectives. Yeah. Okay. I see that. Thank you. Language barrier, understanding perspective. Because I am mindful that Christianity expressed in UK may not be the same as, say, in other countries. Yeah. You know, first and foremost, Fofana say religion. Thank you very much. Yes, yes. Understanding perspective is true. When we say perspective, it's our world view. It's our world view. Can someone let me confirm whether it's showing recording already? No, not yet. Okay, yeah, I think I've seen it now. Okay, I think the recording is on now. Just a minute. It's going to change. All right. Sorry for that momentary distraction. Please, can you still see my screen?
We can, but there is a gray, square or rectangle blocking some parts. Is that deliberate?
Okay. Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. I was trying to get the comments. That's why I brought that one up. So I think what I can do is okay, just stop sharing. And I'll just get back to that again. So let me see some of those. Yes. And so I was talking about perspective, it's about our worldview and how we see life. And the interesting thing is our upbringing and belief system has a way of influencing how we see things and how we interpret life generally. And that automatically or ultimately rather inform our perspectives. And perspective is simply the way you view things, the way you understand things, and the way you feel that is what that thing meant. And that's one part that Kuratu mentioned, and also mentioned the language barrier as well. That's also another part. When we talk about language barrier, I think we'll get to that part where we're talking about communication. Some people have a way of speaking with an energy, that some people have a way of speaking calmly. Yeah. In some instances, if you speak calmly, you are seen as what is wrong with you. It's as if you don't have enough confidence or something is wrong. Meanwhile, in a different culture where you speak with energy, with serious non-verbal expression like gesticulation and body movement, you can be seen as harassing the other person you are talking to. And the person is wondering, are you all right? Are you all right? So, yes. Then Colin said, I am mindful that Christianity expressed in the UK may not be the same, say, in other religion, in other countries. And Fufana talked about religion. Yes. So depending on our belief system, depending on our, in quote, religious perspective, it colors how some people who have not grown to that place of competence to actually integrate and to have actually grown to see it as a misnomer. Something that is not normal, abnormal. And it can create a problem between that person and whoever the person is. Now, I've seen this happen between couples or partners. I've seen this happen between work colleagues, and I've also seen this happen within a parent and a child. Now, what we are exposed to while we're growing up with our parents is totally different. Their own worldview tend to be a bit different from our own worldview when we're growing up as children. Now, the generation is gone to a large extent, then we are here. We're also now having our own children. So we are bringing our own worldview with our children now, and our children have a different worldview and what they are exposed to, the variables are totally different compared to the variables that we were exposed to in the past. So, in the same vein, when you look at it from a religious perspective, what some people are exposed to in a certain culture or certain setting is totally different from what other people are exposed to. And I remember talking about the religion bit that Colin mentioned. In one culture, if you don't shake your head, if you don't jump up, in some instances, I've seen some funny videos. If you don't carry the chair in the name of say you are praying, sometimes even use the chair to bang some wall, wall. it's like that prayer is not fervent. In other cases, you see somebody not even moving, can even fold his or her hands. And as far as the person is concerned, the person is praying. So somebody from such expressive approach compared to somebody who is, in quote, motionless, can interpret this person as not being a serious religious fellow compared to this other person. And when we talk about religion, that's why it's important, because sometimes it is as a result of that religious incompatibility, in incompatibility in the space of religion, that creates such a problem. And we are not looking beyond that and be seeing the humanity in people. And we're able to use that. We are saying communication and certain social, um, I'm trying to get this now. Certain social, is it norms? Inuit. Yeah. Yeah, communication style is different. I just said something like, where some places, if you don't discuss and talk where you raise your voice to express how you felt, you have not communicated very well. Meanwhile, in a different culture, you have to speak calmly. And sometimes some communication have to be diplomatic. In other cultures, communication have to be direct. Some are indirect, some are direct. So if an indirect culture, communication culture meets with a direct communication culture, one is interpreted as being rude, the other one is interpreted as being straightforward. And these are things that if we are not aware of, then it can create that serious issue between the parties or individuals that are actually involved. Thank you. Colloquialism. Thank you, Colin. That is it also. Thank you. Different dialects and being misunderstood. Yes, yes. So at least some of the things that I've mentioned here have actually covered some of those. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me get back to the slide now. All right. And okay. Thank you for engaging with the question. All right. So I touched on, if you look at this one, I talked about those that this webinar can actually be beneficial to from the earlier slide that I just went back to now. And that's why we are having this here. Just look at where I circled red. Is still the same categories that we have. And if you look at each one based on the diagram under them with the arrows under each of those heading, for instance, if I pick the one on professionals working in a global or multicultural environment, for instance, you look at some of the challenges, the possible challenges that the people within this setting can face is communication barrier, which we have actually mentioned. There's a communication barrier. There's a workplace culture differences. There's also the issue of building trust, because we are not from the same culture. The way we do things are different, and therefore there's usually that suspicion in the first place. If you look at the principle of team formation, even when people are even from the same culture, the principle of team formation has to do with at the point where they are forming. When they are forming, they are trying to get to understand each other. And from the forming, you get to storming phase where they are trying to understand each other. And at that storming phase, the differences are playing out. And from storming phase, if that team or that group or that department or the individuals that are concerned are actually manage that transition very well, they move from that storming to numbing. because they've gotten to a point where they have shared interests, they have a clearer understanding, their communication is clearer to each other, and it's at the stage when they have become a norm, it's gotten to norming stage, that's when they can now move on to the performing stage. That is even within the context of people who are of the same culture. How much more when you now introduce a different culture into the setting for the professionals working within a global multicultural environment. Different people from different cultures having different mindset, working together to achieve the organizational goal and objective. And it's usually a very tough one. If you look at students and educators, I personally, I work in an educational sector. I am a lecturer in one of the universities here. And I have students of diverse culture. You have them from different countries. And if you are not culturally aware or have that cultural competence in how you integrate in order to connect with people, you can find yourself in trouble. In fact, I have some colleagues who brought the culture where they are coming from to want to enforce it. Now, when we talk about integration, integration is about you trying to get it into each other. Now, they brought the culture, they are not as the person wasn't assessing what the new cultural environment looks like, and he just intend to enforce it. Somebody like me, for instance, I'm somebody, the country I came from, in Nigeria, lecturers there are like, they are the authority. Students are like, they have to, they have to comply. You have to work with what the lecturer wants you to do. And in some instances, we find some of the lecturers even abusing that opportunity, using it to bully students, using it to carry out all manner of abuse on the students. And now students are usually afraid of lecturers. Flip this culture and bring it into a developed country, UK, for instance, and in any other developed countries, you find out that the power lies on the students. The lecturer have to learn that cultural competence so well that you mind how you interact. It imparts your communication. It imparts how you connect with your students. If you are not careful, if you have that mindset and you bring it there, which happened to that my colleague, because my colleague ended up being sacked because he wants to forcefully just put in culture that he is used to. And if you look at it candidly from a logical perspective, sometimes you see that these students, they have a lot in their hands. And if you are not a professional that is trained, who have this cultural competence to understand how to mediate or integrate yourself and still be effective, they have a way of getting you to that edge where if you are not careful, you will do certain things that at the end of the day will be interpreted as you not supporting the students. And that's exactly what happened. And that my colleague lost his job. And that is just one practical example. This is not being read from the book. This is something that happened within a close range, somebody that I knew who want to enforce his culture on it. So when we talk about this thing, we talk about students, educators, and both. From the student perspective, they know there's a sense in which you are a student in one country, you are coming to a different country, that the culture there is different. We've seen some students who have been decamped, I said decamped, who have been taken back to their country because of the kind of vices or behaviors that they exhibited in a new culture. We have some nationals or immigrants that have actually been deported because of how they brought. I just talked about the aspect of education here. Now, it sometimes is a mix of both. Now, look at the multicultural families. Now, this falls under family. The language and communication. Somebody mentioned language earlier. Language and communication is there are potential issues that could come up with that. From there, cultural identity and values, social integration. Then in terms of HR professionals and managers, as an HR professional, beyond an HR professional, you can be a manager of a team or a supervisor. You have a group of people that are full of different races. I just talk about the educational sector now. Now you have a department and they are full of different races, different culture, different value, different belief system. If you are not culturally aware and have enhanced that competence, you will act in a way whereby you find yourself in serious trouble. Sometimes it could legal issue legal can even be taken. You can be taking legal action rather can be taken against you if you are not careful. But this will just focus more on recruitment and selection, training and development, performance management. But as a manager or as the owner of a business, you want to be mindful of that. You are aware and you know how best to go about it. Is it about individuals planning to relocate to travel abroad? There's that part of culture shock. There's that part of language barriers. There's that part of social integration. Now, these things are mentioned here, not that they are fixed only on the, some of them can cross on each other. You realize that some things mentioned under one category can actually is still reflecting on another category. But it's just to bring to our attention the potential challenges that can come if for a cross-cultural setting. And that's why the emphasis has been on navigating cultural differences. And navigating is actually moving through it without you being harmed, moving through it and leveraging on the opportunity instead of it to limit you, instead of it for you to lose some things, lose an individual, lose a loved one, lose opportunities. You leverage on it to enhance your productivity, personal effectiveness, leveraging on opportunities and leveraging on things that ordinarily that you will not have been able to accomplish. And that's why this is a whole package on its own, which we can talk for days. Now, another quick one. Can you just drop it in the comment section? Which of those categories do you think applied to you? Which of those categories do you think apply to you? And we have that in the comment section. Let me momentarily again stop sharing so that I can have some comments there. And please, if you have a question as I move on, let's try to drop it. And when the time for question and answer also comes, if it's not dropped before then we'll have opportunity to ask. All right, thank you, Fufana. It's time to break the fast. We have to go. All right, thank you. Which of those categories do you think you fall under? If you can just please drop it in the comment section. They'll bear the cats. If you have a question, please drop it. Can you all hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you. We are dropping comments in the comment section.
All right. Thank you. The language and accent. Okay. I work with very diverse team of people from diverse countries and culture. Communication, interaction, and open mindfulness have helped me. Thank you. Accent. How to handle cultural differences in a connection to avoid conflict. Yeah. Yeah. I have mine in a professional setting as well, and it's being open-minded when you see people from different culture, and sometimes I'm not used to certain ways of doing some things, but I have to just adapt. You have to just adapt. All right. Thank you very much. Historical information that is usually referred to in the workplace. Thank you. How to handle cultural differences in relation to avoid conflict. Yeah, sometimes, allow me to say this, sometimes you meet some culture that you are even, if deep down, see, to be sincere, people are even very angry. You say, well, how can this thing be like this? But you have to find a way to manage the situation so that you can, so that you don't find yourself in trouble. For instance, I came from a culture that values respect, is broadly practiced. Then when you go to a culture, not that you don't have people that respect, but broadly you see people who have that lack of respect. People that are supposed to respect. If a typical example, maybe you are in a class and students are just being disrespectful to lecturers or teachers, could be in secondary school. And I've seen situations where the secondary school teacher eventually at some point in time can leave the class, go to the toilet and shed tears because the lead teacher cannot do anything. That's also a typical one. Now, if you try to put up a kind of culture that you are coming from, like where I'm coming from, the idea is the child that will receive a cane, like a beating. Now, we don't encourage beating, but that's the kind of culture that we came from as we're growing up. Myself, if from my own family now, if I do something that is not appropriate at the age I was, then I receive beating from my dad. But because of that cultural awareness, even when we just got married, at some point we were going to be doing that. Then we have to tell ourselves, you know what? These people are not animals. They are human beings. Now we came to that awareness and we told ourselves they are not animals. So there should be a different approach that you can still carry these things out. Now we know of some people, even here in the UK, who came into the country, exhibited that same punitive measure, and at the end of the day, they lost their children to social services. And that's the kind of impact that can happen if we don't integrate aright or we don't integrate appropriately to be able to experience that growth that we're talking about and experience that success that we're talking about. Thank you, Agnes. Adjusting to different systems and beliefs. That's true. That's true. So that's true. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let me go back. So now, if we talk about the strategies now, because it's important, it's not enough to talk about problems, but it's better to talk about the solution. It's better to talk about the solution. And in talking about the strategies, I would like to say that adapting to a new culture can be exciting and enriching, but it can also be challenging, which from our conversations now, we can tell that is a challenging one. But it's about more than just learning the language. It's about more than just learning the language. It's about understanding the underlying values, customs, and social norms. This, we know that it shapes people's behaviors and interactions. That's why it's important that we talk about how best to go about it. And in moving forward, you'll be asking yourself, because it's always good to ask questions for purpose of reflection. What is your worldview like? Are you problem focused or you are solution focused? Whichever one you are, whichever category you belong to, if you reflect on it, you can trace it to how you were raised, the environment you grew from, and the kind of culture that shaped or molded you. And that will give you an idea why you do what you do at this point in time. Now, the first I want to touch on has to do with the need for us to embrace curiosity and open-mindedness. Curiosity and open-mindedness. That is the beginning. That is the beginning. And in embracing curiosity and open-mindedness, there is a need to have that inner state of curiosity. In approaching new culture, we have to approach it with, this genuineness of mind and the willingness to learn. When we got here, before we got here, we already have an exposed mind globally. So it wasn't much of a problem for myself and my family to easily integrate when we got to the United Kingdom. So, but that aspect of curiosity is an ongoing nature that we have. Anywhere we go to, we are curious because we are open in our mind to learn. And that leads us to challenging the assumptions, because in order to allow this curiosity to pave the way and to give you the opportunity to navigate correctly, then you must always challenge your assumptions. What you think is actually right, that had been entrenched in you for decades, might actually be an error. And that's why for myself, my wife, and how we're trying to let our children understand this, we challenge them to challenge their assumptions. Sometimes what you even know before now might have evolved. And if you stick to the previous, which is the old, you might become irrelevant in the current scheme of things. And that's why assumptions have to be challenged. Not all assumptions are correct. And even the ones that are correct, some of them are time-based. They are seasonal, because at one point in time, that is the norm and it's acceptable to the society. In another season, maybe 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 50 years down the line, it has evolved. And if it has evolved, you cannot continue to use the template of the past to want to judge the present. And that's what helps your curiosity to play a good role in it. Then you need to seek out diverse perspectives. Somebody talked about perspectives earlier on. We have to seek out diverse perspective, and this is critical. Engage with people from different cultural background. When we got here, we told ourselves we already have enough of our interaction with our fellow people. We'll continue to have that network with people, even with our skin and with our color and with our race, that are headed somewhere, because myself and my family, we think strategically. We look at what will become 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So it's no longer a function of the person must be from where I am from. It has to be with who is that person that is in that space, that is headed where we are also headed. Who is that person that is in that space, that the frequency of his or her thinking aligns with the frequency of our own thinking? That is what determines what we do. And when we came, we chose to say, okay, our place of worship, because we are Christian, our place of worship, we said, you know what, there's a particular place we have to go to. It doesn't have to be with where my own person or my own fellow citizen is actually doing that from. But this is just because we have a broader perspective to life, and that has actually helped us. So we have to embrace curiosity and open-mindedness. That is very key. The next one is the need for us to develop cultural awareness. There's a need for us to develop cultural awareness. This is important because If we don't, you will not know some of the disempowering belief system that you have. You will not know some of the things that tend to limit you from becoming the person you are meant to be. You will be shortchanging yourself in such a way whereby you are not maximizing your ability or your potential at the end of the day. And this must force us. When you're assessing the cultural awareness, we just did that assessment now. Though that's a basic one. There are more comprehensive ones that we can do to really understand. But for the purpose of this event and because of the limited time, we have to just make use of the one that is so simple, direct, or will still be able to point us in the right direction. And that's why we did that. So when you have that awareness, then you need to do your research before interacting with people. I'm talking about develop cultural awareness. For you to develop that cultural awareness, then you need to be able to do a bit of research. Before you interact with people from different cultures, take some time to learn about their customs, values, and communication styles. Before we ever came to UK, that is our usual practice, not just UK alone, but across the globe. We even have a mentor that had exposed us to the global space, and we think globally, not locally. So it makes it a lot easier for us to be able to just integrate when we eventually got to the United Kingdom. So beyond doing the research, it is also good that you observe and listen. What you think is okay in your own culture might not be okay in another culture. And that's why we need to observe and listen. We need to observe and listen. Then it's good to ask for clarification. When you're observing and you're listening, then ask for clarification. Because sometimes what you assume is okay might not be okay. At the end of the day, it can end you in trouble. I just gave an instance of some family that we knew rather who came here. Their parenting style cost them their children because the children were taken away from them. So if you have not researched and you have not come to that knowledge that there is a way and a pattern children are being disciplined here, the definition of discipline here is different from the definition of discipline from where I came from. Discipline from where I came from, how I was raised, is about, that physical punitive measure whereby you receive a bit of beating so that it can reset your body. Now, here you will discover that is a little far from that. And if you do it that way, there is counterculture here. And if it's counterculture, your intentions really are noble. And where you are coming from, people will even clap for you that, yeah, you are training up your child the way your child should go, so that when that child grows up, the child will become responsible. That is the philosophy. That is the idea. That is the culture. But here, when you do that, it's saying you are damaging the child esteem. You are stifling the child's creativity and freedom of expression. Can you see two contrary interpretations? So if one is not careful, it becomes a problem. Another culture is culture of timeliness. Some people have even used their continent name to say so time. I don't want to mention say so continent name time. Now, if somebody is used to not respecting time, that's why I have to apologize because we started a bit later than 5. That's why if we don't respect time, you can lose opportunity. You can miss opportunity. Somebody going for an interview, if you are dead late, is a sign, is a red flag that you have flagged to the person that wants to employ you. If you are not on time, on the time that you have set out, that you say you want to be there, you are communicating something. You don't respect time, they see it as something big. And here, especially in the United Kingdom or any developed world, time is of essence. You clock in and you clock out. There's a time you have to work that you are giving for, you are working for a particular pay. If you don't work up to that time, HR will flag it, and they flag it, they can take that away from your money. Beyond taking it from your money, you are building a culture of disreputation. And when opportunities now come, because of this simple fact of timeliness that is different from one culture to the other, the person can lose opportunity. The person can lose business opportunity. The person can lose a relationship with a loved one. Now, there's also the culture of taking responsibility for your action. In some culture, especially if it's somebody that you know very well, you agree that I will do A, you will do B. I did my A, you didn't do your B. You understand? After all, you should understand. Now, the fact that you didn't do your own task B has affected the general outcome of what we expect. And if that is the case, then we should deal with it. We should talk about it. Now, there's a culture whereby when you're talking about it, it is your own family people or family and friends that will come to take it easy now. Don't you know, are you guys not friends? Or is it not your brother? Is it not your sister? You could see sentiment playing out. And that's why it's important. So that cultural awareness is key. It's very, very important. When you know it, then you go for it. You go late, then you'll be faced with your consequences. So you have to have that sense of responsibility. It's a thing. Like I said, myself and my own family, we already imbibed this thing to a very large extent before we got here. So it wasn't an issue at all because we rather raise the bar than trying to meet up with the bar that is set for us. That is our own family, one of the family values of that's that spirit of excellence. If you have committed to do something, then commit to do it, irrespective of circumstances that might even come up while you are trying to achieve that. So culture, then the need to build relationships and seek mentorship. The need to build relationship and seek mentorship. This is also another critical one. I would say, like in form of a question, just to reflect, are you limiting your circle to the previous relationships? Or you are trying to build a new set of relationships? Can you see some people around that look like who you look forward to becoming? Is there something about someone not in your current circle already doing stuff that you see yourself doing either 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? How are you treating this sort of relationships? So the ones you're having, how are you treating it? Are you intentional or are you intentional rather on understanding and building relationship with such people? When we came, because we are strategic people, when we got here, we have to keep our minds open. And we knew we are going to be building new relationships. And we were fortunate. I personally, I was so fortunate. I met someone who is a strategic person. He oversees a non-governmental, a non-for-profit organization, 3 different arms that is big. And somehow our paths crossed. We took a walk together. I could still remember vividly that time, about 2 hours stretch walk, and we were engaging. And as we were engaging, we were operating at the same intellectual frequency. I just knew, okay, this is somebody to connect with. It's not a function of the color or the race, it's a function of alignment with where I'm headed and what I want to be doing. And instantly from there, we started and we did a lot of strategic things together. And we are still together till now that we discuss on the issue of strategies and we see, okay, how things could be done, how that can be done. So that is what we're talking about. So there's that cultural alignment that happened. So as we navigate, this one I just gave now is about integrating. Now, it helped me to integrate while we're having those conversations. Then it has helped me in my own growth experience. And now it's also imparting somehow, even though I have mine before that is global in nature, this was like an added flavor to it to further enhance my understanding. So the navigation was easier, the integration for the growth for career and family was also good. So when we came here, we mingled in a different setting and we leverage on the positive side that are empowering. And that's brought us to where we are today. So I would say, in terms of building relationships and to seek a mentorship, connect with people. With the illustration or story I just gave now, I connected. Built cultural relationship. I connected and I built on the relationship. And that had enhanced trust and rapport. Now, because of time, I'm just saying it for this experience that I've just had now. My wife too she works in a multicultural setting, diverse. Literally, when we started, she was about the only one in that department until later that she started noticing other people from a similar race or culture like hers. But because of the exposure and the understanding that it is important that we integrate successfully, she was able to integrate. She's seen and known as somebody that is high performer, and she always getting very good commendation from her line manager. How would this thing have come to be if we have not gotten our minds open? If we have not gotten our mind to say we want to be flexible, to be able to accommodate different aspects. Now, is it 100% of everything done there that she's in agreement with? Of course not. But the awareness helped to integrate. It's the same thing I've been doing also in my office. And I'm also known to be I'm a notable person, and I appreciate that because I am also very and highly respected because I have created that avenue where the integration had actually taken place. So you will develop a relationship that can help you to enhance, and that ultimately will help you to build trust and rapport with the people that are around you. So I would say seek out for someone that can be seen as someone that can enhance your relationship. Sometimes it could even be you now seeking for a mentor. Sometimes it could mean that to be able to help you to navigate the cultural differences. And of course, we cannot overemphasize communication. Communication is the bedrock of anything you talk about. Is it in the work setting? Is it in the business setting? Is it in the family setting? Communication is key. Communication is key. I would like to momentarily stop here and ask and take question. If we have any question, please can you drop it? Okay, when I was talking about time, I said don't want to mention the name. Somebody drop it African time. Any question, or you feel you want to drop something, you want to corroborate something, please feel free, just drop it in there and let's keep the engagement going. Right, I've stopped sharing. I want to get some comments there. Okay, Colin said great content daily. Thank you, Colin. The illustration I was giving, that person is in the call here, but I don't need to mention the person's name, but it's one of us here when we just came early. But I don't have to mention the name. Okay, Uwase, I would like to say that in integrating, we should also be mindful not to lose our own identity. Very good. We are even coming to that point. Yeah, this is an important point. We'll come to one of the slides that I'll mention that. Because you are integrating does not mean you should lose your essence. Now, there are a whole lot of positive things about the values that we were carrying and bringing. And therefore, we have to understand that the fact that we say we want to integrate for growth does not mean you should integrate into decay. Because there are some norms and there are some values and there are some beliefs that if you get yourself into, thank you for bringing it up, but there's actually one slide like that, because that's where we talk about the balance. That's talking about the balance, because you don't, in the name of becoming integrated, now lose your essence. You don't, because you want to integrate, now lose your own set of values. And that's why, in the first place, what are your own values? Whoever doesn't have values ultimately doesn't have a value. So, what are your own values? Because that is what will help you navigate. And in navigating, not everything is for you. Now, sometimes it's not even about whether it's right or wrong. It could be right, but not in sync or in alignment with your own set of values. I said something that build that relationship with someone who is in alignment with how you reason, and maybe you see somebody doing something that you could see yourself in 5 years from now. It is important. And that's why if you don't have your own set of values, if you don't have your own set of plans set out that you are working towards, you will not be able to identify the right person. This one I gave earlier, that for 2 hours we were working, we engaged intellectually and we were having that conversation. It just struck a chord within me that this is the kind of person I want to relate to, because I don't want to talk to dummies. I don't want to talk to people who are not thinking. I don't want to talk to people who are not headed anywhere. I'm heading somewhere, and I want people who are also headed somewhere, who have value, that are driven by values. I want to be in connection with some people like that. And that defines it. So we should not lose ourselves, because in all of these things we're talking about, wherever we are coming from, we have those positive values that we already have. And people don't understand this, we go and completely throw away their own set of good values and just imbibe everything, good, bad, and ugly. And they become worse off than where they were coming from. And I've seen this thing even played out where people, because they have not envisioned who they will be, they come into a new culture. Maybe they come from a developing country to a developed country. Instead of leveraging on the good thing aspect of the developed country, they just take everything hook, line, and sinker, and they start behaving. Even the bad side of the developed country, they start imbibing and becomes a problem. And people that knew them before, they will notice that something is off them. You don't have to speak like them for your value and personality to be intact. You don't have to behave, because I don't want to go into, because it's a sensitive subject, but the whole idea is that don't lose your essence. Don't lose your essence because you are trying to integrate. Thank you for that. Well, yeah, there's a question. How would you differentiate between custom and culture, or are they the same thing? Good one. What is a culture and what is a custom? They are intertwined in a way. They are intertwined in a way. Culture evolves from values. The set of beliefs and values that we have evolve into the kind of life that we live, and it becomes a culture. And a culture is simply put, like I said earlier when I started, simply put, is the way of life of people at time. Sadly, some people way of culture that was empowering some years back has become disempowering now, but they are still holding on to the culture. You hear sayings like, this is the way our forefathers have been doing it, so we have to continue to do it so that we continue to get the same results. They are not progressive in their minds. But when it becomes a custom, it's the big. So say customs are traditions embedded within a culture. Thank you for bringing that up. They are traditions embedded within a culture. So it's all intertwined, and somehow we can't say one is totally different from the other. If the culture is prevalent, then part of the norms and the customs are the one feeding it to become the wider culture, because we now say is the way of life of people. Now, the culture I grew from, for instance, believes that a wife is not meant to take the forefront. The wife is supposed to be doing something in the kitchen and taking care of the children. I grew up, but I was exposed early to understand that that is a disempowering mindset. Now, if I've believed that, and that's what some people have believed, even some women have believed that, they tend to put themselves so beneath and not even making an attempt to become the best version of themselves. There are some areas that are prevalent with that. Now, it's been the custom that had led the custom around such a society was that, and therefore it has become a norm and over time evolved into a culture. So we cannot separate them completely. They are intertwined and they feed each other. Thank you for that question. It's very important. Very, very important. And that's why I was saying earlier, we should know our own set of values that are empowering. The fact that someone from a developing country to a developed country, I used to have that mindset. In fact, once you are from a developed country, in my mindset, and this was from my upbringing, because I have low self-esteem, I believe people like that in the developed country are superior. You won't believe that is the mindset I carry at some point in time until I got exposed, until I built mentoring relationships, until I read about it. Then the low self-esteem was turned around and I became positively minded, and the positive esteem now becomes my mantra and is how I now see life. So you could see how when you come from that certain custom, it affects your way of life and way of living and eventually impacts on how you do things. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, calling for the question. Thank you, Uwa, for stepping in to answer that. Thank you, Agnes. Thanks for today. I really be intentional about connections. I am intentional about connections too, but connections that are in alignment towards the direction I'm also headed. Some people, in the name of connection, they connected with the wrong set of people. They got themselves into trouble. Even if you're not getting yourself into trouble, you put yourself in a way whereby it's taking a lot away from you, and it has brought you into a disrepute. People lose their sense of reputation. So, all right. So let me quickly move on. Then I can give room for question. Oh, sorry. I'm sharing the YouTube window. Okay, I want to communication. Right. Right. So from the communication, I said is the anything you can ever imagine, because communication is applicable practically in all areas, family, career, business, wherever you want to think about it. It's all about communication. That's why we say communication is key. And that's why you see why this will form part of the framework that we are talking about. And as far as family sphere is concerned, statistically proven that you require marriage is about 85% communication. If it's 85% communication, fine. Um, uh, um, there are other data that is out there based on research that some you see some 85, some will even tell you 90%, some will tell you 75%. However it goes, you see, even between 75 to 85 is a high level, is a high percentage, and therefore it tells you something that communication is very critical. It's foundational to every other thing that we do. If something goes wrong with communication, practically things will go wrong on all fronts. And that is why it's good that we develop these communication skills. If you get into a new culture, you need to understand what the communication style of that culture is. There are cultures that believe in direct communication, and there are some cultures that believe in indirect communication. And that's why if we don't cultivate the habit of active listening, it can be a problem. If you don't cultivate and learn the skill in the area of nonverbal awareness, it's going to create a problem. If we are not clear and concise with how we speak, it becomes a problem. It becomes, you model the whole thing up. And I used to suffer for this before because my wife she played a big role in helping me to get to where I am today. Because if I communicate, I use so many words to describe what I want to say. But by her constant intervention and correction and feedback, I've been able to improve over time. So when we get into a different culture, you need to understand the way things are done somewhere might be totally different from the way it is in other place. So you have to be clear and concise, and the communication have to be respectful as well. That should be respectful as well. I've said this earlier on. Cultural tonality is something. In some culture, you raise your voice. In fact, there's a part of the tribe in my country whereby the non-verbal aspect and the tone have to be strong. If it's not strong, you are not communicating respect. There's one that you act like a military person. You stamp your foot. You do your hand like this. Yes, yes, sir. That is respect. You come into a culture that believes, take it easy, just softly and gently. And if you stamp your foot and you're doing like this, somebody will take a second look at you and assume that maybe something is wrong. Or is it a culture that believes that, yeah, you have to be diplomatic, you have to do this, and a different culture that tells you the way it is. Don't no missing of word. 3, 4, 5 words communicate the same thing, unlike compared to 20 words that will be used in communicating the other thing. And in communication, we are looking at eye contact. In some culture, if you have an eye contact, it's about respect. In some other culture, if you do an eye contact, especially with an elderly person, somebody older than you, not necessarily very old, but somebody of older age, if you maintain an eye contact, is disrespect. So how will you differentiate this? And that's why you need to learn it, research it, talk about it, find out, so that what you think is right, which is actually right from where you're coming from, is actually not acceptable in another place. And that's why it's good that we have this. I'm the type that I will look away. So I've learned to see, okay, it has to do with direct eye contact. And don't go with so many words. Go straight to your point, be direct. And that is what the culture around here in the United Kingdom is all about. Now, another culture believes that children are meant to keep their mouth shut when the parents or somebody older in the family is talking. Even when the child wants to clarify something and is asking the question, why? Recently, I was telling our children recently, I was saying, oh, this generation, you are really enjoying, because from our own generation, when you look at somebody that is older than you, it doesn't even have to be your parents, and you try to say something, you want to engage the person, and the person says something, and you say, why? Meanwhile, the why is not born out of disrespect, the why is born out of need for clarification. You will just, before you know it, or sometime before you finish like that, we were saying that we're laughing, you would have just gotten something that would sound right here. Like some of these cartoons, there will be some stars that will be that will be moving, invisible stars right on top of your head. So just imagine that culture, and you now came to a place where you want to slap somebody. That is going to be abuse, and the person can land in jail. So we don't want to mess around. So communication is so big. And because of that, there's a need to exercise or practice patience and flexibility. That's why we look at it, flexibility and adaptability. Now, let me move on a bit faster. Flexibility and adaptability. When you are flexible, you're able to accommodate. When you are adaptable, when you are adaptable, you're able to accommodate. When you are flexible, you're able to make room. Being flexible is expanding and making room. Being adaptable is accommodating. Now, if we are not doing that, then it will be a problem. We have said earlier on that we should not lose our own identity. Yes. Now, in accommodating other culture, don't accommodate to the detriment of your own empowering values. or culture. That's where the mix is. So instead, you leverage on the empowering side of the new culture that you have found yourself and filter the ones that you know are not empowering. Now, remember, I said you should have a value for yourself. You should have some set of values that are driving you. And if you have that, then it helps you to filter the one that is not in alignment with yours, especially when it's not an empowering one. That's why there's a need for that flexibility and adaptability. So in doing this, you have to be patient. You have to be patient because you know it will take, it's a process and it will take a while. You have to be flexible, like I've overemphasized. Then you have to embrace uncertainties. Why am I saying embrace uncertainties? I'm saying embrace uncertainties because these things are new to you and you are not sure where this thing is going to end. But the important thing is for you to reflect and be able to ask yourself, okay, this will not be a bad idea. Because when we get to UK, my wife is more flexible than I am, but I have to force myself also to be flexible. You know, I'm known for just to be in. I don't want to just go out. She's a more expressive person, and her personality is more of an extroverted one. I'm more of an introverted. It was when we got here, okay, you know, you have to go for English tea. You know, you have to go for a tea. Some that okay, let's go. When we sat down there, I looked at it. Is it not just don't make jest of me? I said, it is not, is it not tea bag? Can't I buy from a superstore and boil water and put it in my cup and make a hot tea for myself? If it's great tea, British tea. Can't I just buy this thing and have it and I can sit down, cross my leg and watch a TV or watch a movie? But I realize it's beyond that. You know, one of the culture here is people stepping out, going out, having relationship with people and having conversation. Business deals are sealed because I was not exposed to some of these things. So I have to adapt myself and be open. And I know wherever my wife is, once she's hearing this one now, she can attest that I have tried, but I know I am not there yet. But what am I saying in essence? You have to be patient in that, in being flexible because it's a process, it will take a while. So embrace the uncertainties. Embrace the uncertainties. It might look uncertain to you, but once you can tell that it's for the ultimate good for the family, for the business, for your career, then it is worth the shot. Then find common ground. In finding common ground, there is the you part, there is the them part. Now, this is what will help you not to lose your individuality. All right. I could see who has hand up. Yes, thank you very much. Please, you can raise your hand and stop me and make a contribution. Please, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if I could do this, but I just thought I should try. So you mentioned the part where we went for the afternoon tea. That was part of
Mm.
the integration. That was part of, we having that open-mindedness to say, so what are the things here that are, you know, that the English people do, what's part of their culture, what's part of their
Yeah.
tradition. And like you
Yeah.
rightly explained, drinking tea in the afternoon is not, what we came with, is not something that is precious to us. But again, because of that open-mindedness and,
Yeah.
the need to be adaptable and flexible. So, but what I would really like to say is the way we have also approached it, we've created a balance. In as much as we are curious and giving respect to the culture we have found here, we're also happy to share the beautiful side of our own culture with the people we have also met here. So you
Yeah.
remember sometime last year, um I made jollof rice for my team members. I want
Yes.
my immediate team is not so large, but my larger team is very large. But my
Mm.
immediate team about like 7 or 8, and
I
so
remember.
because they see that
I remember.
I'm very open-minded, they're
Mm.
happy to share part of the English culture and Indian culture because I work with a diverse team, so they're happy to share that with me. And so because of that, I've also been very open to share my own culture with them. And a great part of culture is food. So I thought, okay, so why not share this part of my culture with them, because in Africa, food is a barrier breaker. And so I told them, okay, there's this very popular meal that we eat back home in Nigeria. In fact, between Nigeria and Ghana, we even have a long-standing competition going on, which country makes the best jollof rice. And so I told them I'm going to make Nigerian jollof rice. And if any of them here have tasted jollof rice before, after eating mine, they will attest to it that Nigerian jollof rice is the best jollof rice ever. So I made jollof rice for the entire team, jollof rice, chicken, and fried plantain, which we call dodo in Nigeria. And I can tell you that has been a barrier breaker. It has broken a lot of defenses till even that I did that last year, but up to like last 2 weeks ago, my line manager still talked about it in a team meeting and was like, we should beg what to cook another Nigerian food because they absolutely enjoyed this. And I explained to them the significance of jollof rice. It is the food, the meal we serve at parties, it brings bonding. It was just a barrier breaker. So one of the things I would like to suggest is as we are open-minded to learn some of the culture we have found here, for those of us who have immigrated from our own country, we should also be happy. We should also be dignified and honored to share our own culture with the people we have also met here, so that they can enjoy the richness of the things that we are also bringing from our culture. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please, do we have someone that also want to make a contribution? That would be appreciated before we go on. So it's not just daily speaking all along. Thank you for those that have been dropping comments and asking questions in the group. Okay, thank you very much. Let me come back. All right. So let me go back to my sharing. So it's such a huge one. Such a huge one. Okay. So the next thing is you have to take care of yourself. And this is a big one because people moving from one culture to the other, if they don't understand how to maintain balance, we've seen people break down. We've seen people admit it. We've seen people come up with some ailments that impacted their lives. And it became something that is a lifelong journey that they have to be treating. So, because there is a high chance that somebody might be put under pressure in the bid to say he wants to integrate. Thank you for bringing that balance to it. So, and these are towards this end are actually the balance that we're talking about. You have to take care of yourself. Your mental well-being is so critical, and we need to be very, very deliberate about it. And in taking care of yourself, one of the things that we realize sometimes can cause this is when you get here and there's a culture shock. The way things are done back home where you are coming from compared to the way things are done here is totally different. Where we are coming from, one person might be able to foot the bills. When you come here, you realize that bills are meant to be paid. You are paying it on a monthly basis, and it's a lot. And some people are used to only one person doing the work. When they come here, the person now find it difficult for the two of them to work. But the person find it difficult to now work in order to support the other person. Now, somebody might not be able to relate with this, but for people coming from a developing country to a developed country, you realize that this is something that is actually obtainable here. That's actually obtainable with a set of people. And you see people who before they left the country, they've risen to the highest level of their career. Getting into a new culture, they find it absolutely difficult to start the process all over, because starting the process might mean you taking up some roles or jobs that if you look at it, you want to interpret it as is demeaning. You want to look at it that, no, I am above this. But the reality is, and this thing, if it's not managed well, it has a way of impacting on someone's mental well-being. And that's why it's very, very important that you take care of yourself. So I say here that an individual's mental well-being is foundational to their output. You cannot give what you don't possess, whether at home or in the workplace. You cannot give what you don't have. If you overburden yourself with complexities of cultural integration, it will be difficult not to experience burnout. I'm telling you, burnout becomes inevitable. And if there's burnout, there's a high chance that there could be strained relationships. And your effectiveness definitely will drop. So I call it strain, apart from strained relationship, that diminished effectiveness. Then ultimately, consequently, safeguarding mental wellness is actually of utmost importance. It's actually of utmost importance. And whatever we have to do, well, let us manage that aspect very well. And if we get to that point where it's becoming overwhelming, then it is essential that we seek for support. Now, in coming to the end of my presentation, thank you everyone for making all the contributions and engaging. I said it in the video that I sent that just a simple framework, and it's based on what I have actually talked about here. The first level is about awareness. Awareness. If you are not culturally aware, it will be difficult to even have an idea of how you intend to approach it. Now, if you are aware, then you know in approaching it, you need communication skills. Now, it's not just communication skills at the general level, it's cross-cultural communication skills. Then when you're able to cross that barrier, it entrenches in your mindset or subconscious that there's a need for you to live your life with inclusivity. And that's why the next layer there talks about inclusive practices. And when you practice inclusivity, you will now appreciate the beauty in diversity. And that's why I said leveraging diversity for innovation and growth. Now, leveraging here is not you taking on everything hook, line, and sinker, like I said earlier on. You leverage on the good ones and you filter out the one that will not be empowering to you. So that's how you leverage. So leveraging diversity for innovation and growth. And that ends the loop. The loop that is now linked to the beginning and the end is about continuous learning and adaptation. Because after you've gotten to leveraging diversity for innovation and growth, what works yesterday might not be good enough to work for today. And what is working for the current reality today might not be sufficient to cause you to experience that success tomorrow. And that's why we should all be candidates for continuous learning. Now, continuous learning had to be accompanied with adaptation because some things you're already used to, you will need to let go of certain aspects of those things in order to take on that aspect. That's why that flexibility and adaptability is necessary. Now, if you leave me to myself, if only that is good enough, I am not somebody that will be techie or leverage on technology. I just want to do things in an old school way, analog. But the dispensation we are in now and the business of education that we are in, I don't have a choice. So I have to keep stretching. So I have to constantly learn. After I've achieved a certain level, after some time, I need to stretch further. And that has been the practice between myself and my wife. And that is the culture we have entrenched in the heart of our children. You're going to school, also have to be working. Regarding work experience, as you are going to school. Take responsibility for your life. When you are working, you have to be responsible for yourself in this area. And that's the work. So this is just in a nutshell. But the interpretations of this is what we have here. I don't have to read through everything here, but let me just, because of time, this is like 14 minutes to 7, and we are meant to end this by 7. I'll just read out the first two in terms of the strategy, which is related to that framework now. Cultivate cultural awareness and sensitivity. What will be your key action? Your key action will be, or actions, because it's more than one that you do here. Seek out opportunities for cultural awareness training. Develop cultural competence at all levels, and be open-minded and willing to learn about other cultures while being mindful of personal biases. In terms of to emphasize open communication and active listening, engage in direct conversation about communication styles. Be aware of personal preferences, ask open-ended questions, and actively listen to understand different perspectives. Actively listen to understand different perspectives. So it's important that we bear this in our minds and let us walk towards it. So you might want to take a screenshot of that. I don't need to run through the whole thing, but there's the aspect of adapting your communication style. These are things I've already talked about, but this is just the framework. But I don't want to leave the framework alone like that, but a little bit of explanation is necessary so that it gives clearer picture to this. Adapt your communication style, practice empathy and perspective, avoid assumptions and stereotypes, be patient and build trust, and foster inclusive environment. These are things that are labeled within the framework in the previous slide, which were further expanded in this case, so that we know that it's beyond just the framework, it's beyond just the talk. Okay, what exactly should I do? Because I talked about it before today, that practicable framework that we can make use of. Now, this, please bear in mind, this is applicable within a family setting. It is applicable within a business setting, within a career setting, in the office that you are working. Is applicable across board. So when you look at it, then is to reflect and say, okay, how do I adapt this into my own? Because we cannot talk practically on touch on every area. It's better we just talk about the framework, then you situate it and you look at which of the categories, like I asked the question much earlier, if you identify your category, then trace it down to the framework and trace it down to the key actions, then you're able to take those actions in achieving a productive result in your own field. So it's all about acting. It's all about taking action. And action changes things. And that's why just that acronym ACT is there. So successful career integration and adaptation can be achieved through these strategies that we've just discussed and which you have seriously also engaged in. Then they allow you and I to build cultural bridges, which ultimately contribute to greater harmony in our businesses, in our families, and also in our career. Thank you very much. This is question and answer, but before we get into question and answer, I think it's good I just move into this part because of time. I will drop it here. Is a feedback. I sincerely will appreciate if you can drop your feedback. It's important. This webinar is the first one this year and is something that is going to be continuous. And we want a situation where we can improve on this and serve the community and the world at large in a better way. I just, okay, let me see. I need to send to everyone. All right, so I've dropped it in the comment section. So you can use the next 2 minutes to just quickly, it's not much and they are just direct. So just help us quickly do that and let's see how we take it up from there. We need your feedback in a way to improve for subsequent webinars. So we really, really appreciate if you can just take a minute or two now and just help us get that done. Of course, we have the sources. Of course, I have to leverage on some sources to develop the material. Those are the sources that there's need to exhibit integrity. So that's that. Then while you are doing that, I also want to share some of the resources that I have. What I would do is I will just copy the links and I will drop them there. So you have opportunity to see all the resources that are available. And I have a gift for everyone that is present here, and is an ebook called Leadership Secret Struggles. It's overcoming insecurity from a family perspective. This was written in November, and I'm giving it out for free. Please, once you are done with the survey, let me know. You can just say survey done, then I know how to move to the next one. Then I put that there because of time. So the link for that is there, and I'm going to drop the link for the ebook gifts. And this all will give you the opportunity. It gives you the opportunity to be enrolled in my email list. I send an email out on a weekly basis. I send that on a weekly basis. So, but it comes once you enroll, you get an ebook. I also want to drop that link as well. Okay, survey done. Sonia says survey done. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you for coming. Because I was sharing, I didn't see. So the links are there for the resources, and also I've dropped the link for the ebook. Once you click on that, sign up for the email list, and the book drops straight into your email, and you have that for free. And all these things are born out of the need to let's collaboratively work together and make sure that we make our society a better place. And if you look at this book, The Value Blueprint, is new. It was just newly published, and it's already out there on Amazon. That's why I've shared the link. It's on Seller, it's on Amazon, it's also on my website. So you see the three links. Whichever one that is most convenient for you, you can look at it and be able to get it. And the one on my website has all the four of them, apart from that Leadership Secret Struggle, because this is coming to us as free. So it has not been uploaded there because since it's been given out as free. But the other four, Value Blueprint, Conflict Management, 21-Day Affirmation, Ready, Set, Read, all of those are on my website. But if you get that from my website, it will be an ebook. If you want a hard copy, then that will have to be on Amazon. And for some people who will be having challenges with accessing Forex or foreign currency, that's why Seller is there for you to have that. Then the last announcement I want to give is that come next Saturday, I'll be running a podcast on a weekly basis. It's going to be every Saturday. You don't have to be there at 7. This will be pre-recorded and it's going to be there. So even if you're not able to watch it or listen to it rather by 7 p.m. on Saturday, you can always access the YouTube to be able to have that. And my YouTube handle is at Dele Agbogun. So you might just want to follow me right there and then so that once it drops, you can see it alerting you that there's a new post that has actually gone ahead. And for anyone who might want to connect with me beyond here, I have all my social media handles displayed there on different platforms. And also the last on the right section the below section on the right is my website. So enough resource materials are there. And my concept and my focus is more on relational leadership. So when you look at what I'm writing about, you will see that it's either I'm talking about leadership, I'm talking about relationship, I'm talking about the connection. But what you start hearing me talk about more from here, from next week, will be the two. And that's why if you look at this, the podcast is termed relational leadership, because some people rather have not connected it. Why we've spent thousands and thousands, if not millions, of different currencies training leaders to be effective leaders. which is good because if not, they will be in their raw state. But I personally believe that when you entrench this, why children are growing up is more effective when they become an adult, especially when those subtle values like integrity, values like excellence, values like kindness, values like discipline, all those things, if it's entrenched, these are some of hidden leadership traits that eventually play out ultimately. That's why I'm calling the relational leaders to let people know that there's a connection between our upbringing experience and how effective we are as an individual. And therefore, your upbringing has a way of impacting your personal effectiveness, and your personal effectiveness has a way of impacting your society and ultimately your world at large. And that is what has battered the passion and the burden in me that this is going to be a journey and it's going to be on a weekly basis, and I'm committed to it. And if you know anybody who you feel, because we need to build this into a community, we need to build this into a network where wherever we are singing and we are emphasizing the critical role of parents in the life of their children, knowing that what they do today has a long lasting impact tomorrow. If only they know, then they will do better why they are doing that today. And that brings me to the end of this presentation. I want to say a big thank you for everyone that have stayed true up till now. So we don't have much time, but if I can still take one or two questions, that will be good. Let me check the comment section if we have uh okay, survey done. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, yeah. So what has helped me to put the YouTube channel and also the Instagram account there. Of course, you've seen the website as well. I think I posted it earlier. The website, okay, down is for the material, but the website itself is www.deliagbogun.com. So with that, you can't miss it. Once you know my name, you cannot miss it. deliagbogun.com, and have loads and loads of resources that are there. Do we have any question to take? Question. How has this been for you? Maybe if you want to describe it in one word. I know the feedback had gone ahead, but maybe since we're all here live now, and we just maybe with one word, how has this experience been for you? With one word. Useful introduction for me and helpful. Thank you, colleague. Insightful, Modupe, thank you. I really appreciate you, Colin. Thank you. Came in on time because the culture of time is there and you stayed true. Integrity. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Any other comments? Expository. Thank you. Hope. Thank you. To have one or two more. Very informative and engaging. Thank you. Very insightful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for logging on. And since I have, through your registration, I have your email for the upcoming one. When it's arranged, I will let you know. And also a reminder also from next week, Saturday by 7 p.m., the thing will be running. And from next week, it will be ongoing. And it's more like a campaign to let people be aware that we need to do the needful while our children are young, so that we invest the right set of values in them. When they become an adult, they become a change agent. They become an agent of influence in their world and in their society. They are influencers. They are not lured into values that are disempowering, but instead of it to be lured into it, they are the one influencing others to be empowered And when we have an empowered individual, we have an empowered society. When we have an empowered society, ultimately, we will have an empowered government, empowered economy, empowered environment. Safety will be on the increase. The budget for security will go down when we are not having social menace in the society, and the level of craziness is reducing, and over time that it has a role, it has a ripple effect, and we need to really commit to this. So I want to say a big thank you to all of you for logging in, and until then, you hear directly from me when the next one will be announced. So thank you so much, and have a beautiful, wherever you're watching from, a beautiful morning, a beautiful afternoon, a beautiful evening. Thank you.
Have a good evening, sir.
Good evening.